Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down the second and last part of the Summer House Season 9 reunion. Honestly, I was so surprised to find out that this was the last part of the Summer House reunion. I feel like it goes to show just how kind of mid this season was, because I'm pretty sure the reunions are typically 3 parts, and it feels like in this reunion, really the only 2 things that we had to talk about were Paige and Craig's breakup and Lexi and Jesse. So we pick up right where we left off, Sierra versus Lexi. Lexi's argument is basically that Jesse was purposely shifting public opinion to make it seem like she didn't like Sierra. And she's like, Jesse's been instigating, he's been liking comments on Instagram that ship you and him. And Sierra's like, well, Jesse's not that smart. That's basically the girl's whole argument, is that Jesse's not that smart. Even when Lexi says Jesse made it seem like the 3 girls, Amanda, Paige, and Sierra, didn't like her, Jesse chimes in and he goes, no, she's lying, I never did that. And Lexi goes, no, Jesse's smarter than you give him credit for. And here's the thing, I do think that Sierra, Amanda, and Paige didn't give Jesse enough flack for everything that went down between him and Lexi. Because here's the thing, is this is how manipulative men trick women, is they make women think oh no, I'm harmless, I'm just the dumb goofy guy who's constantly making jokes. I'm not capable of manipulating anyone, and that's how they get away with this stuff. But Lexi, who clearly got very, very close with him, I mean, they were in love, she's saying no, you guys don't see what I'm seeing. And this is how a lot of men like Jesse make women like Lexi feel crazy and look crazy to other people. And it's I get it, Paige, Amanda, and Sierra were friends with Jesse first. They love Jesse, they have such a huge soft spot for him for some reason, but it's I feel because they were friends with Jesse first, they had a really hard time looking at this situation objectively, and that's one of the reasons why Lexi felt so alone. Paige makes it a point to say to Lexi, listen, just so you know, nobody here didn't like you. Nobody was out to get you. And Lexi's well, to be honest, it did feel like that. But here's the thing, and Amanda says it, she's I wish you had reached out to me. I wish you had just texted me on the side and said, I'm feeling this way. I would have loved to help you. And at the end of the day, Lexi didn't do that. She didn't do that to anyone. So it's I get it. It's you were in love with Jesse, blah, blah, blah. But when women isolate themselves because they're so head over heels in love with a guy, and then that relationship with the guy ends, and all of a sudden they look around and they find themselves without any friends, they do have some fault in that. At the end of the day, the women were there, Paige, Amanda, and Sierra were there the whole time, and I just think Lexi did not make enough of an effort to meet them halfway. At the end of the day, Lexi is the stranger in the group. She's the one who needs to put in the effort to make friends with these women. They shouldn't have to do all the work. Then Lindsay makes a great point, which is that all of Lexi and Jesse's problems just came down to the way that the public and also just their friends perceived them.
Where it went wrong for a myriad of reasons, but is because it became about perception. You know, you felt like Jesse was making you look like a fool, the toe sucking, the flirting when you were away. And then you felt like towards the end, she was making you look like an asshole and a bad guy and this horrible person. And it became more about how the world was going to perceive each of you, and instead of...
So that basically put a nice little bow on that conversation, and we're moving on, thank God. I can't wait to never hear about this ever again. I can't believe that this was the main drama throughout this season, Lexi and Jesse. We really just had nothing going on this season, if that was the most exciting thing that we could talk about. Then Imrul is dismissed, RIP. I just wish he would have put in more of an effort to be something on this show. I just think he showed up day one, and I don't know what show he thought he was going on, but I think he showed up day one and he was I don't want to do this. And I just think he didn't really try all summer. So demoted to friend of status. I don't think he's made an announcement yet, but most likely he's definitely not coming back next season. Then when we come back, Andy is talking about Carl and Lindsay, and poor Carl, he addresses those freaky giant veneers that everybody was making fun of him for last summer. He acknowledges that they were way too big, and he does say he got them fixed. Good for him. I'm just so happy he acknowledged that. It does say, it's like kind of sad, like his feelings were like very hurt by that, which is like, I feel bad. Like everybody really was kind of clowning on him for that. And then Andy asks him if he still misses Lindsay's friendship, and he like stutters a little bit, and he just goes like, yeah, I do miss Lindsay's friendship. Like they show in his package, they show like on the anniversary of his brother's death, it was also Lindsay's birthday, and she was really there to help him through that on the day that it happened. Like, that's traumatizing. That's really sad. I feel like Lindsay is so linked to the trauma of his brother's death that way. So now that Lindsay is no longer his friend, it's like another loss for him. You know what I mean? That must be really hard to work through. Then this was kind of like a big, what is it? A big bomb? What's the expression? This was a big revelation. Lindsay announces that she and Turner, her baby daddy, are no longer in a romantic relationship. She says they've put their romantic relationship on pause, and that's why they do not live together. And this all happened like as of a few months ago. And people on the couches are gasping. It seems like nobody knew this except for Gabby. Andy asks if Turner sleeps over sometimes, and Lindsay says yes, but then Andy asks if they're friends with benefits, and she says no. And she says she's not dating other people. He goes, do you know if Turner is dating other people? And she doesn't say for sure, but she goes like, I would be shocked if he was. Like, I don't think he is. And she just says that they're best friends and they're amazing co-parents, but he's just not the man for her. She sort of alludes to the fact that really it has to do with the fact that Turner is an exceptionally private person and Lindsay is just not. Like, they talk about this with regards to them raising Gemma together. It sounded like, she didn't say this outright, but it sounded like Lindsay wants to post Gemma and Turner maybe doesn't. I think that's like a discussion that they've had. I'm with Turner on that one. I really hope Lindsay never ever posts Gemma's face. That is completely unnecessary. The back of the head is totally fine. But it's like, yeah, I would imagine that somebody super, super famous like Lindsay, it would be hard to date somebody who's so private. Like, somebody like Lindsay wants to be like out loud. She wants to be like posting her life. That's her whole career, is to post her life. Obviously, her relationship is a significant part of her life. So is just her home life. And I imagine it would be hard to be with a man who is not down with that. Like, I would imagine that causes a lot of fights. Then Andy asks Carl what initially attracted him to Lil. Do you remember that girl who told him at the party, at the like pirate party, that he looked like a lemur? And Carl goes, honestly, I thought she had a hot body and a cute face. That was literally the way that he's so over Lil when he says that. He's just like, yeah, I don't know, I just thought she was hot. So crazy, because when Lil was first introduced, Carl like seemed like he really liked her. So that was just a switch up. I don't know, he was basically saying like, I don't know, I just liked her because she was hot. I feel like if I was Lil, I would have my feelings hurt a little bit by that. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't say like, oh, she had a great personality, she was so funny. It only had to be because of her looks. I don't know. I feel like I guess I respect the honesty, but if I was Lil, I feel like that would hurt my feelings a little bit. Andy asks Lindsay what her opinion is of Lil being on the show, and she's like, listen, I wasn't annoyed by Lil being on the show. I'm grateful that Carl chose a weekend when I wasn't there to bring her over, but I was annoyed that Carl told her where Turner and I conceived our daughter. Because I guess, I like totally forgot about this, but I guess they had a conversation by the pool, Carl and Lil, where Carl was talking about Lindsay, and he was like, yeah, you know, it makes me a little uncomfortable that she conceived her child in a bed that I bought. I don't know, Lindsay, that's such a non-issue to get mad about. I don't know, like, she doesn't seem that heated about it now, but it's like, girl, let it go. At this point, like, I don't think Lindsay should ever talk about Carl ever again. It's over. It's over. You have your daughter. You're so happy in your life now. It's time to stop talking about Carl. Andy notes that Kyle and Amanda seem to be talking things out this summer rather than fighting. And Kyle's like, yeah, we did a better job of addressing things right away instead of letting them fester. And then Amanda says, this was also another like huge shock. Amanda says that they had to have a really serious conversation at the beginning of the summer about where their relationship relationship stood and what they needed to do to move forward. And she goes, yeah, I had one foot out the door at the beginning of this summer. That was shocking. I mean, I don't know if she means that, because the impression that I get about Amanda and Kyle is like, even though I would love for her to leave that man, I do not think she will ever leave that man. I feel like she's gonna be his doormat for life. So when she said that she had one foot out the door, I was like, oh wow, like things must have gotten really bad. And they show an unaired scene where Amanda was like yelling at Kyle. Like she had her voice raised and she was like, you keep doing the one thing that I can't stand, and right now I can't trust you. And they don't really say what it is, but Kyle just kind of alludes to the fact that it has to do with his partying and his socializing and stuff. Like I feel like the one thing that he's doing is probably getting super drunk and going to the bars and flirting with girls like Danny from the Valley. So then we get into the whole baby thing. And this was also like really illuminating, because it made me realize that the situation with Amanda and Kyle having a child or not, it's not what I thought it was. So Amanda says that what's actually holding them back from having kids is Kyle's obsession with work. And she goes into this whole thing. She's like, yeah, he's never around because he's always working, and then he's traveling around to DJ. And then even like during our day-to-day lives, like he's always at the office, and then he comes home and he goes straight to the gym. And she's like, I'm just waiting for Kyle and I to sell Loverboy. Like it seems like that's what he's working on 100% of the time is Loverboy. And I don't know, when she says that, when she's like, I just can't wait for Kyle and I to sell Loverboy, I feel like I've heard that Loverboy is like not doing well. And I feel like Kyle talks about that too. Like, I don't think the company is where he wants it to be. So it makes me wonder, like, what are the criteria that need to be met for Kyle to sell Loverboy? I'm assuming he wants it to get to a certain value, but like if the company isn't thriving, it's going to take a really long time to get to that point. And like he mentions, they talk about like this age thing. It's like he's already 42. And then so this was what was shocking to me. I always thought that the reason why Amanda and Kyle didn't have kids was because Amanda didn't want to have kids, just like on her own. I just thought she didn't want to be pregnant and have kids. But she goes, actually, Kyle's not ready to have kids. And then when Kyle asks if she's ready to have kids, she says, I'm ready to have kids with somebody who's ready to have them with me. That was, oh my God, the awkward silence in the room after that, the face that Paige made on the other side of the couch, that's like a brutal thing to say to your husband. I'm ready to have kids with somebody who's ready to have kids with me. That was like her very subtly telling him like, I have the potential to have one foot out the door again. You know what I mean? So then we talk about the whole debacle with Kyle and Kyle and Craig. And, you know, when Craig invested in a Spritz brand and he and Kyle had a huge fight about it. Paige says that she defended Craig when he and Kyle were having their fight about that investment thing, just because he was her boyfriend. And she was like, I always fought hard for him in public because that's what I'm supposed to do as a girlfriend. But in private, I always used to tell him, like, you know, you're in the wrong about this, right? And then she also says she doesn't know if he was even telling the truth about the whole business deal because, like, I guess he just had completely, every time he talked to her about it, he told her something different. But she says that when he first told her that he was going to do this, that he was going to invest in a Spritz company, she was like, you know, you have to call Kyle and tell him about this, right? And Craig was apparently like really taken aback by this, and he like refused to do it. He was so shocked that she would say that. And Paige also thinks that Craig didn't even understand the business side of things, and he was just saying stuff, like he was just spewing out whatever like was in the contract or the lawyers were telling him. And Kyle was like, yeah, I knew that Craig didn't know what he was talking about because everything he told me about the investment contradicted the last thing that he would tell me. So of course he didn't know what he was talking about. And they're like at the point where they're laughing about this now. And Kyle, this was really sweet. Kyle says that when Paige and Craig broke up, he texted Paige to check in on her, and Paige texted back Team Loverboy. That's really, really cute. I mean, yeah, Craig is a man baby. He's always been a man baby. All the men on Southern Charm are man babies. But it doesn't surprise me that like Craig didn't think he had to call Kyle to just warn him that he was gonna post about this investment into a spritz company, because he always has to be the king. He never wants to be deferential to anyone. He always has to be right. He's so insecure about his masculinity, and it really shows in interactions like this. Then, oh my god, this was probably my favorite part of the reunion. I'm so glad we could put this to bed. Andy brings up the rumor that Craig was kicked out of Amanda and Kyle's wedding. And Paige has previously denied this. She's previously said, like, no, that's not what happened. Craig has vehemently denied this. And Amanda just finally says straight up, she goes, he was asked to leave the property. Straight up. And Paige said that it was so bad that she told him the next morning to call Amanda's parents and apologized, and he refused. He wouldn't do it. So Paige called Amanda's parents and apologized instead. And she goes, he was belligerent. He was kicking tables. He went inside her parents' house because their wedding was, like, I think in their backyard, and going inside her parents' house was off limits. And she just goes, he was an embarrassment. And here's the thing. When Paige said this, I'm not gonna lie, I lost a little respect for her. Because it's like, I know this feels so cool to you right now. You're like, yeah, fuck Craig. Like, I can say whatever I want about him. He's such a loser. But it's like, if you think he's such a loser, why didn't you break up with him after that happened at Amanda and Kyle's wedding? Because I can tell you this, if in a hypothetical situation, my boyfriend got so drunk at a wedding that he was kicked out and he was being disrespectful to the host and he was being physically violent, like kicking things and swearing and being belligerent, I would break up with him because that's a loser. And so the fact that Paige like lied for years about it and denied it, and the fact that she even stayed with Craig after, like, her telling the truth right now isn't cool to me. Like, that isn't a girl boss moment, because it's like, no, you should have left him when it happened, or at the very least, you should have told the truth, and you should have either forced him to take accountability or just like apologized on his behalf if he clearly is not going to do it. Like, I don't know, that's not cool for me. I feel like that's so lame. Like, when a girl covers for her boyfriend and pretends like he's so perfect, and then at the end of the relationship she's like, oh, actually he's been a loser the entire time I've been dating him. Like, so why did you stay with him then? What does that make you? Andy says that Craig told him at the Southern Charm reunion that, so when Paige broke up with Craig the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. And Craig told Andy that he didn't feel like they were actually broken up that Thanksgiving. And then in December, it felt like they had kind of gotten back together. And Paige is like, what the hell is he talking about? So she says she broke up with him the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. And then in December, when Craig was on Watch What Happens Live, that night he came over to her house and they just kind of had a final in-person closure moment. And then by the end of January, she had mailed all of his things back. That makes sense to me. I feel like any kind of long-term relationship, like, sometimes after you break up, you do need to have kind of a final in-person thing just to close things out. Like, I'm not one of those people who's anti-closure. I do think sometimes, like, it serves a purpose. Like, I get it. 3 years, it makes sense they wanted to do a final in-person thing, especially if Craig was, like, really in denial about the breakup. So that tracks for me. And of course, just for the record, I don't believe that Craig ever bought a ring. I really don't think he ever had one. And she says that she announced the breakup on New Year's Eve because he was out partying in Aspen and people were taking pictures of him. And she was like, okay, I need to announce this because otherwise people are gonna think it's like a cheating scandal. And then she talks about how, if you don't remember when this happened like 6 or 8 months ago, there were rumors that Paige cheated on Craig, and like major trades were like pushing these rumors that Paige cheated on Craig. And Paige was like, all Craig had to do was put out a statement and be like, she didn't cheat on me, that's not why we broke up. And he wouldn't do it. And that is just so disgusting. Like, again, it's like I said, he's insecure about his masculinity. He wants to win this breakup. It can't just be a normal, mature breakup for him. It always has to be a fight. He always has to come out on top. And so she says that at the time when she broke up with him, she thought that he and her would remain friends, but things went in a different direction, and now she never wants to speak with him again. She won't even say his name on the reunion. She goes, "What happened with my ex-boyfriend?" She just calls him my ex-boyfriend the entire time. I kind of love that. I kind of love the pettiness. I'm sure Craig is going to watch every single minute of this. I wonder, I haven't checked, but I wonder if he's going to post an Instagram story or talk about it on Southern Charm or whatever. I wonder if he's going to deny that he was kicked out of the wedding still, or if he's just not going to acknowledge it and never acknowledge it again. And then that's kind of it. And we end with Lindsay just saying she's not sure about her future on Summer House now that she's a mom, but she'll try and come when she can, and we'll have to see. And that's it. It kind of ends. I was shocked that the reunion was only 2 parts. Like, it just kind of ended super abruptly. They toasted with White Russians in little baby bottle shot glasses to make it look like Lindsay's breast milk, which was so cute. That was so funny. That scene in the finale when they drank her breast milk and they said it tasted good. I've watched other reality shows. This happens a lot on, like, I think it's happened on The Housewives a few times, where people have tasted their friend's breast milk and everybody has said that it tasted good. I'm not gonna do it. I personally am not gonna do it. I actually think I would gag at the thought of it, but I love that for them. Where do we go from here with the show? I really don't know. I feel like they're headed for a Vanderpump Rules style 100% reboot. I think it's definitely time. Or even if they just ended Summer House, if they were just like, we're not renewing it, it's not coming back for season 10, and then they created a new show about these same cast members and their adult lives in the city, I would watch that. But definitely at the place where Summer House is now, it cannot keep going the way it is. Even this season it was boring. I mean, like, there were only a handful of good episodes that all came towards the end of the season. Amanda and Kyle are really aging out of this show. Carl is too. Lindsay, of course, is like a mom now. None of them can afford to be going to the Hamptons every single weekend and partying. It's like they're 40 years old. They can't be doing this the way that they used to. Lexi and Paige both announced that they were not returning to Summer House next season. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Paige's announcement kind of surprised me. I feel like this is such an easy check for her, but also at the same time, she's definitely like outgrown Summer House in terms of her career. I'm sure it's like, even though it's a nice paycheck for her, I'm sure it's like the last paycheck she needs. I'm sure she's making millions off of like her podcast and her influencing and her deals with Amazon and stuff. So good for her. I don't know. Will she be missed? I feel like it's like what I said about Paige before. She provides those like cute one-liners, but at the end of the day, she's been on this show for 10 years and we only started learning deep things about her and getting deep into her life this season. So it's like, am I gonna miss her? She's kind of like Cameron on Southern Charm, you know what I mean? Like, Cameron was fun and she contributed things to conversations, but we never knew anything about her. Paige, I feel, is kind of the same way. I follow her on Instagram. I feel like I'm not really gonna miss her that much. Lexi announcing her departure kind of shocked me because I feel like say what you want about her, I don't hate her the way other people hate her. I mean, at least she brought the drama this season. She was really the only one, like her and Jesse. But it kind of shocked me that she exited. I'm wondering, I mean, I feel like, because here's the thing, when Bravo fires people, they give them the option. They're like, you can say whatever you want. You can tell them that you weren't asked back, or you can lie and say you quit and will not be coming back. So I wonder if Lexi really did leave of her own volition, or if Bravo didn't ask her back. It would shock me if Bravo didn't ask her back, because I feel like she brought a lot to this season. Like, I feel like next season there's a lot of potential for her now that Jesse's out of the picture. Like, she's very young. They need young people on this show, and it seems like she's down to party and stuff. So interesting. Like, what do you think? Do you think that Lexi wasn't asked back, or do you think she quit on her own? All I know is I'm very interested to see what they do for this show. Let me know what you think they should do. Should they just go on with season 10 and try to bring bring in a ton of new blood, or should they do a full reboot like Vanderpump Rules? Some people are saying like they probably want to do a nice round 10 seasons before they do a reboot, which would kind of make sense, like celebrate with season 10 and then, okay, everybody's fired, we're bringing in new people. I could definitely see that. If you missed it, I uploaded my recap of last week's episode of The Valley a couple days ago, so you can check that out on the channel. And then I will be uploading some more Love Island reactions. I uploaded a ton of shorts if you want to check that out and see my thoughts on the season. Next up, I think Real Housewives of Miami is coming back really soon. I think it's coming back in the coming weeks. Definitely this month. I'm pretty sure it's in June. So stay tuned for that. Be on the lookout. And as always, I will continue to be recapping The Valley and Love Island. So please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any of that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.